All right, welcome back, folks. I am Jake Ellenbogen, and today we are going to be doing something a little different. I wasn't sure how I wanted to do it, but I did finally, after all these years, I've never put together a video about this, but I took my 50 super sleepers from this NFL draft, guys that will likely go on day 3. Maybe one of these guys will go early day 3, but most of them are going to go day 3, late day 3, or, they might not go at all and they'll be priority college free agents. Before we dive into this, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Of course, also be sure to follow me on all social media at JK Bogan, and let's get into it. So I wanted to talk about something real quick because, it is a sore subject and it has to be mentioned. In preparing for this, okay, I went through and I watched tons of tape and I found some sleepers that, really stood out to me, even guys that I wasn't even expecting. I was watching someone else's film and someone else jumped out at me and they showed up on this list. Unfortunately, there was a player who really stood out to me, a prospect who I think 100% would have gone on Thursday, or not Thursday, but would have gone, during the NFL draft, probably on Saturday, would have potentially had a shot, to stick on our NFL roster and do something. And I'm talking about AJ Simon. And if that name doesn't ring a bell, unfortunately, local to me is UAlbany. I've mentioned this before. AJ Simon, sadly passed away at the age of 25. I hate starting it off like this, but I wanted to make the note that this is an honorable mention because he belongs on this list, and it's really sad. I'm not even going to lie. It is really sad. But, I just want to say, his family, his friends, they're in my thoughts. And if you guys see this, any of you see this by any stretch, I don't know why you would, but if you do somehow come across this, I just want to let you know that I was a big fan of his game, just watching the film, and he absolutely was deserving of being on this list, and he was deserving of being drafted. So that is what I have to say there. Now let's dive into it. This is going to be a lot of players. We're talking 50 super sleepers. And I'm not going to go in a particular order. These are not ranked in order. We're going to go from quarterback down to safety, what we normally do. So starting off with quarterback, you see the Kansas Jayhawk logo behind me. I got to go with Jason Bean out of Kansas to start this thing out. Potential Rams quarterback 3. To me, this is somebody who really showed a lot of guts. He transfers from North Texas, ends up becoming the starting quarterback for Kansas. It doesn't really work out. They get Jalen Daniels. Daniels takes over and really shows a lot of promise to be the starting quarterback, and he takes over, and he becomes that. He becomes a star in college football. He ends up getting hurt this past year, and Jason Bean fills in, and he looked outstanding at times. I mean, I really never looked at Jason Bean like a quarterback prospect. He was probably a guy that would have to move to like a wide receiver spot or what have you. But Bean has an it factor. His game, and when his best is required, he really steps up in the moment. And, I was really impressed. He had one of the best, completion percentages of any quarterback in the country when pressured. He was one of the better, let's be honest, he was one of the better quarterbacks in the country. And I think when you look at him, he's really going unnoticed. No one's talking about him. Late day 3 option here for the Rams. He's somebody in my estimation that, has the natural talent at, thrower of the football where he may or may not get drafted. But if he does, if he goes to the right team, potentially he could stick at quarterback and be a backup quarterback. He's got blazing speed, great athleticism. It's why I was, kind of expecting him to get moved to, a wide receiver role. But if he doesn't, I think he's got some tools in his bag there to be a quarterback. So Jason Bean, we started off with. Number 2 out of 50, Gavin Hardison from UTEP, another QB3 option for the Rams. And when I say option, obviously I know Garoppolo's number 2 and Stetson is number 3, but these guys can push Stetson. I'm not saying they'll win, but they can try and push him. I liked Hardison. I was very intrigued. I don't think he had great production at all, but there were times on tape where I found him really interesting. I think this is somebody who had some injuries and maybe the production wasn't dominant. But the raw tools are on tape. Okay, he doesn't stand at any imposing size. I mean, he's only 6'1", 206, but I think he's worth a flyer. I was really impressed with the arm velocity that he had, and I was impressed with the confidence he displayed and the poise in the pocket. Sometimes it led to poor decisions, being overconfident, but at the same time, I liked that he was confident. He wasn't afraid to take the deep shot, wasn't afraid to try to fit in between two defenders. Raw traits, you can work with that. NFL coaching is going to be a lot better than UTEP coaching. No offense to UTEP. So we'll see what ends up happening. But Gavin Hardison comes in at 2. Number 3 here is Emani Bailey from TCU. I think this guy has a shot to push Zach Evans for the running back 3 spot if drafted. He ran for over 1,200 yards this past year. He seems to be somebody that I was just really excited about. When I was watching the tape, he didn't test well at all. He had an awful RAS score of 2.26, which is very poor, but I found that on tape, he wasn't playing at that RAS level. He generated 70 missed tackles this past year, which is literally second in the country, only behind Kimani Vidal per PFF. He's around 5'7", 200 pounds, but he's got a strong build, and he's got the leg drive you want to see in a Rams running back. I think when you look at Bailey, his vision is underrated, and the most important thing I think for me with running backs is, can you pass protect? We all know that these guys can run. If they get an open crease, they can run for a first down if there's an open crease. But can you stay on the field on those third down opportunities? And that's the thing. If I'm taking Kyron Williams off the field, I have to know the next guy up can pass protect in a pinch. And I think Bailey offers enough to be a late day 3 selection. I was impressed with his ability to break tackles, and I liked his contact balance. So I got Emani Bailey out of TCU, running back, number 3. Now 4 out of 50, we have Daijun Edwards. Maybe it's Daijun Edwards. Might have butchered his name. From Georgia, the running back, RB3 potential guy. I think this is another running back, again, tested really poorly, 1.90 RAS score, but he's got the size at the position, 5'9", 213 pounds. He's got great ball security. That's going to keep him on the field. This is somebody that, is shifty, can make plays with the ball in his hands. And I think he offers enough in pass protection where I would be okay keeping him on the field. Is he a guaranteed start at the next level? No, probably not. But I think he can definitely offer something as an RB2 at the most and RB3 at worst. So that's who I have there. Number 5, I have running back George Holani from Boise State. RB3 option, but I have a guy in him that I think he's a potential starting level guy. Okay, I'm not saying that he is going to be, anything super special, but on kind of a lower end team, I could see him starting. I think he tested very well first off, but I think the tape speaks volume. I mean, when you see him, he's got the straight line speed, he's got the ball carrier vision, the anticipation that you love to see. So I think he could stick around the league kind of similar to like a Boston Scott. He stands at 5'10", 208, which is really good for the position. And again, he's reliable. So I think, just the fact that Holani has the speed and the size. He's reliable, doesn't really put the ball on the turf. He has good vision. I think he could stick around the league, so I have him at 5. Number 6 here, and of course, let me just make this very clear. I'm just counting down. These aren't in any particular order based on skill, so just remember that. Number 6, Jase McClellan out of Alabama. Met with the Rams, so obviously wanted to point that out. Running back 2. potential there. I think day one, he has potential, to be a RB3. I like him. He's rugged, 5'10", 220 pounds. This is somebody that is going to help you in short yardage situations. He's got really good, contact balance. I think he's got some good speed. I think he's shifty enough. He's jabby enough, if you will, with his feet, makes these jabs into the dirt where, he can be a problem. He's got the leg drive the Rams are going to look for in these running backs, can push the pile. I think he's an intriguing option for the Rams, and I think he could push Ronnie Rivers for their number 2 spot almost immediately. So look out for him. They clearly like him. They met with him. Number 7 here is Jaden Shirden from Monmouth. Potential RB3 option. Shirden is a small school back, highly productive small school back, 2 years as a starter. He was second in college football, in all of college football in rushing yards this past year, including the FBS and FCS. He's explosive, ran a 4.45, smaller than really the desired size that you would want, but he's got quick instincts. I think this is somebody who makes good decisions as a running back, and I think he has a chance to be a big-time standout small school running back and turn into something in the NFL, so I have him at 7. Number 8 here, Cole Burgess out of SUNY Cortland, the wide receiver. I think he has a chance to, potentially be a Rams wide receiver 4 or 5. I think coming out, he's probably going to be aiming for that 6 spot. I wasn't expecting to like Burgess's game as much as I did, but I found something with the 10-yard splits. He actually has the fastest 10-yard split in the draft that I could find, faster than even the guy that ran a 4.21 in Xavier Worthy, which is saying something. He ran a 1.43 10-yard split, a 4.45 40. So this is somebody that has explosion. Right away, this is an explosive athlete. I don't think he's going to help your offense right away. Maybe he's a guy that can kind of come out, like if you remember an old school name, Derek Stanley, who the Rams drafted back in the, I forget, it was Abilene Christian. I forget exactly what school he went to at the time, but he's drafted when it was the St. Louis Rams. I kind of see somebody like that can come out, maybe make a few of those big time plays. You just put him in there, have him run straight down the field. If he can do it, great. You take a deep shot with Matthew Stafford. But my thinking here is that Burgess offers something as a legitimate contributor on special teams. And with the return game the way it is, he started off as a returner at Cortland, and then he really turned into something as a receiver, one of the best players in the program's history. So I like Burgess here. I wanted to mention him, 8, and I think there's a chance he gets drafted. Number 9, Tejhaun Palmer out of UAB. Rams wide receiver 6 potential there, maybe a little bit higher. I think definitely a little bit higher. I'll get into that. But, this guy has 6'1", 210 size out of UAB. I think he has intriguing upside. He started as a JUCO athlete, transferred to UAB. He was on Bruce Feldman's freaks list, which is something that's interesting to me. But I think really when you look at him, I think with the right coaching, he's got enough there where he could be a gem in this class. He could really, show out and be something. So, keep that name in mind. Here's a name that you probably know if you're doing mock drafts. He probably shows up around the 5th round. Going to be one of the higher, the more notable names, I think, on this list, but I still think he's getting slept on. Ainias Smith out of Texas A&M. I think he's an option, could potentially be a Rams wide receiver 4 down the road. I think the big thing with him is just how much he's able to do after the catch. He eats yards after the catch. He's a very good returner. I think that adds more value than ever because, the recent rules, the changing of the rules for kick returning, really kind of I guess promotes this. So he forced 20 missed tackles this past year. I think he's packed with intangibles, heady player. And, I think he's somebody who, needs to get better with his route running, but I'm a fan of his. So Ainias Williams comes in at 10. 11 is David White Jr. out of Western Carolina, 6'2", 201. I didn't get to see a ton of his Western Carolina film. I only got to see a game and a half. Yeah, I found a half a game. But I also watched his workouts at the not the Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl, online. And I thought he was really, turning heads in practice. I mean, his ability to get off the line of scrimmage, the hesitation moves that he was pulling off, the double moves, he was really impressive, very twitchy, create separation, didn't run a crazy 40 time. I think it was in the 4.58 range. But this is a name to watch out for. I would not be surprised if he ends up having a pretty solid NFL career, David White Jr. We move on to number 12 here, and this guy just screams Ram to me. It's Jordan Whittington out of Texas. I think he is the definition of we, not me. Everything I've ever heard about this guy is that he is a great leader. He is a team guy. He's somebody that everyone loves in the locker room. Yards after the catch, natural hands receiver, willing blocker, just kind of fits the mold, right? I think, he's been through a lot. He missed 22 games in his first 3 years due to a groin, meniscus, and clavicle injury. But I think, the Rams look at that. They look at perseverance. They look, at just being able to face adversity head on. I think that's something that they value. I think it's something they valued with Byron Young, having to work at a Circle K and a Dollar General and becoming, a player in the NFL. So I'll say Jordan Whittington, remember that name, Rams' potential replacement for Ben Skoranek, who is in a contract year. Moving on to number 13. This one's a little tricky. I think a lot of people are split on this player. It's Erick All, who used to be a Michigan tight end. He transferred to Iowa. He suffered a torn ACL in October, so I understand a lot of people are kind of confused. Like, where do you put him? Where do you rank him? He's 6'4", 253 pounds. He actually reminds me of a former Hawkeye tight end, Noah Fant. I think he's more of a receiving threat than a blocking threat, but as the great George Kittle once told me, you got to be able to block if you want to play at Iowa. And clearly he can block. It's just at the NFL level, is it going to be enough? I think he needs to work on that. But I see him as a potential Rams tight end 3 option, and I'm going to be very curious to see if that's a player that they actually look at. Another one that I'm interested to see if they look at, because they did a lot of homework on Washington over the years and probably this year, tight end Devin Culp. Who is a really good athlete out of Washington, potential Rams tight end 3 option, ran a 4.47 40, 6'3", 238 pounds. This isn't somebody who you develop into a long-term number 1 tight end. I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's going to be a designated target. Okay, I think he's going to be a weapon. And if a team wants to give him that opportunity, then I think he could really thrive in that role. So I don't know if the Rams would go for that, but if they're interested in that type of tight end, I think Culp makes a lot of sense. Number 15, we're going back to Kansas here, going with tight end Mason Fairchild. We interviewed him on the Downtown Rams podcast. Tight end 3, potentially could push for that. I think Fairchild is far from an elite athlete. Okay, he's not mistaking anybody for being an elite athlete. He runs a 4.9, whatever. But he makes up for it with his blocking ability, his leadership, and his willingness to do anything on the field. And I think when you look at a guy like Fairchild, red zone threat, a guy that would always really, I don't know what it was. He didn't even know what it was because he told us on the show, always found a way to get behind a defense. He wasn't ultra fast or anything like that, but they kind of just forget about him. And you see that body and you're thinking, okay, he's blocking. And then he turns upfield and no one's there. And he's good enough to actually pull away a little bit and score touchdowns. So interesting tight end 4, tight end 3 option, Mason Fairchild. Remember the name. Number 16, Tanner McLachlan out of Arizona, tight end 3. This is somebody who, in my opinion, is one of those tight ends that I've just, absolutely fall in love with. I mean, he's really fun to watch. We'll probably go in the 6th round. Could go earlier. 2-year starter out of Arizona, transferred from Southern Utah. I think he's like a Brock Wright type, if you know who I'm talking about on the Lions. A guy that just kind of comes out of nowhere. And just, you don't want to take him off the field. He's a really good complementary tight end piece. And so I think that's what McLachlan is. A really good number 2 tight end is his future. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially on day 3. Number 17, now we're getting a little crazy here. Offensive tackle Travis Clayton from England, okay? Part of the International Player Pathway Program. I didn't want to butcher that. Potential third string Rams offensive tackle option. He comes over to the NFL draft as part of the IPP. And I actually really like the idea of late in the draft, when you have a bunch of picks, drafting somebody like this, drafting, stashing, and developing. And Clayton is very intriguing. He stands at 6'7", 300 pounds. He is a rugby player, but he also boxed. So you got to have great footwork, obviously. Boxing also makes me wonder if that's potentially a pipeline. We start to see boxers become offensive tackles or whatever. Probably not, but worth mentioning. Don't forget, it wasn't that long ago, Jordan Mailata was one of these international players that came out of nowhere and ended up becoming a superstar, or, as much of a superstar as an offensive lineman would be. So it's worth taking a flyer on these guys. I like the athletic profile. I have nothing really to go off of except for that, but I like the idea. He comes in at 17. Number 18, Anim Dankwah from Howard, a potential third string Rams offensive tackle option. So Dankwah is really fascinating to me. Absolute monster of a body, 6'8", 349 pounds. Small school guy. Okay, so the coaching probably is going to be as good as the small school coaching can be. I think NFL coaching is going to be huge for him. This is a classic draft and stash. Okay, he's got crazy body, DeJuan Jones level type of guy, but I think he's got starting tackle potential. Okay, this is a project. This is a project, but I think it's a smart one to invest in later on in the draft. I think he'll probably go round 7. So this makes sense. Number 19, Josiah. I'm probably going to butcher this. Josiah Ezirim. Probably Ezirim. We're going to go with Ezirim from Eastern Kentucky. So potential third string Rams offensive tackle. Ezirim is another potential draft and stash. Really good body, obviously good athleticism. So another draft and stash offensive tackle. Then at 20, I have Tylan Grable from UCF, who really stood out to me on tape. He was a walk-on at Jacksonville State, worked his way, transferred to UCF, and, he has very good athleticism and size combination there. Some teams are going to try to move him to a guard or center position. I think he could play tackle, draft and stash him. Started quite a few games at UCF, so he might be a little bit more likely to pan out than some of the other guys. 21 is Garret Greenfield out of South Dakota State. I've mentioned him so many times. Now we went from third string offensive tackle to potential backup Rams offensive tackle. Greenfield is so fun. He's so awesome to watch. He's going to fall because he's 25 years old this year as a rookie. He's going to fall because essentially this is somebody who played in the FCS. He's older and he's not the best run blocker. He still needs to work in that, regard. With that said, he is so athletic. He's so explosive. He's going to be huge in pass protection. I'm very excited for Garret Greenfield and his overall potential. So at 6'6", 311 pounds, crazy explosive grade. I mean, he ran a 1.76 10-yard split, which is crazy, and it shows up on tape. I think I'm going to pretty much put my name down here and say Garret Greenfield, given the opportunity, will start in this league. That's what I'll say. Number 22, Giovanni Manu. Okay, this is a British Columbian player, international player. Now, Manu played, for British Columbia, 6'7", 352 pounds. So obviously the weight is there. Huge profile. He ran a 4.96, guys, at 352 pounds and 6'7". He's a project. Okay, draft and stash, develop him. Maybe you can bring him on to the practice squad after the whole, training camp and preseason. But yeah, he's the definition of a draft and stash, and a good one at that. Bayron Matos is another one that's interesting. Dominican Republic. I'm mentioning him as Dominican Republic because he actually played basketball for New Mexico and South Florida. So he played college basketball, and then he also was a walk-on for South Florida football team. Never played though. He's got size at 6'7", 313 pounds, And this is somebody that has really intriguing athleticism. Because of the International Player Pathway Program, he is going to be in the draft. I think he's worth a late day three flyer. But there you go on the tackles. Moving on to the centers, we got two here. You got Drake Nugent from Michigan, backup Rams center option. Reigning champion, Michigan Wolverine starting center. I don't know why he's being so slept on. I think it's because of the stature. He's only 6'1", and he's not super big. He's like just scraping 300 pounds. But at the same time, he doesn't really have any bad film. I think he's really solid on tape. Go back, watch the Michigan film if you don't believe me. Drake Nugent, I think, is going to be really good if given the opportunity. He'll be a potential spot starter at the next level. Number 25 is Jalen Sundell from North Dakota State, another backup option. Sundell is a better run blocker. He's a monster run blocker. Okay. This guy is trying to delete you from existence. Okay. His athleticism is real. I think his play strength, that's the question. Is it going to be good enough for the NFL? He's obviously destroying guys in the FCS in the run game. Is it going to be enough in the NFL? But I like taking a stab on athleticism and, run blocking production late in the draft. So Sundell definitely makes some sense. So we're halfway through. At 26 here, McKinley Jackson from Texas A&M, backup Rams nose tackle option. I think he makes a lot of sense. 6'1", 336 pounds, rotational piece. My biggest thing on Jackson is that I watched his Senior Bowl one-on-ones and was just blown away. He really has a good first step. He can win. He had to, obviously adjust to what was going on. He tried some new things. He was working. So I like adding him late in the draft. I think it makes sense adding another Texas A&M guy. I don't think, Bobby Brown would be too much against that, but those are my thoughts there. Number 27, now we're at edge. Sundiata Anderson from Grambling. Okay, this is a backup edge option here. Anderson to me is intriguing, 6'4", 247. He's not the most, electric athlete, but I think he's got a really good arsenal of pass rushing maneuvers. And, I think a guy that just has a wicked hot motor is going to be, intriguing there late day three. Another option here is a guy with 18 sacks, Jalen Green out of James Madison. I don't know what it is with Jalen Green. Like, I understand he's a little bit, smaller. He's a little more compact. But this guy just finds ways to sack the quarterback. The fact that some have him going undrafted kind of is just head scratching to me. He offers a lot as a rusher too. He's very violent, very fast. Again, not tall, but you can work with that. In the NFL, he's a situational pass rusher. That's what we call him. That's good enough. My next guy here, number 29, edge/inside linebacker. This guy right here is maybe my favorite of the entire list. His name is Bo Richter, okay? I don't know if he has any relationship, with Les Richter. I don't know if he's related at all, but I love Bo, okay? He's somebody that I was watching Trey Taylor, who I'll get to later on in this video, at Air Force, and he just kept making plays. And I'm watching him, great athlete. He's covering guys. He's 10 sacks, moves all around the field very well. And I'm thinking, this guy's a sleeper. This guy's giving me the vibes that I got with Dylan Cole, who's still in the NFL, by the way, another sleeper. But then I thought something else. He's better than Dylan Cole as a prospect. I think he's very similar to Andrew Van Ginkel because I think he can be a Swiss Army knife. And the Rams were interested in Andrew Van Ginkel. So that's intriguing to me, right? Bo Richter, remember the name, Air Force. I think the Rams should be interested. We'll see what ends up happening. I got him at 29. Number 30. Amari Gaynor, linebacker, North Carolina, very similar to Bo Richter, kind of that hybrid inside linebacker edge. Gaynor is somebody that I just don't see a lot of weaknesses in his game. I don't really know why he's being so slept on. I had to double check to make sure he, declared for the draft and he had draft eligibility because I was confused why I wasn't hearing anything about him. I think he's a good coverage linebacker, quality first step. He can work as a pass rusher. I think he's solid in the run game. I don't really know. Obviously, the little nuance things. If we want to be picky, you could pick apart any prospect. But Gainer, somebody's going to be getting a good football player that might come out of camp, knocking out a veteran. He might steal a roster spot. Watch out for Amari Gainer from North Carolina. Another guy to watch out for is at number 31, linebacker Easton Gibbs out of Wyoming. This is somebody that plays more athletic on tape than what he tested. I know he ran like a 4.7 and whatnot. What I've learned is that I don't like scouting the helmet, but Wyoming linebackers have built a reputation the past few years with Logan Wilson and Chad Muma. He's not either of those guys. He's his own guy, and I think he'll help. He's worth a flyer at the very least. Easton Gibbs is as a potential defensive player, but at the very worst, he's going to be a really key contributor on special teams. Number 33, Tyrese Knight out of UTEP. We talked about the UTEP quarterback earlier. Now we're talking about potential backup inside linebacker. Knight could go in the 5th round. He could go in the 4th round. I can't see him going in the 4th. So I'm going to say he probably goes in the 5th. So one of the higher names, I think, on this. But I think he's a bit of a sleeper. I never hear him. 6 foot, 238 pounds. I don't know if he totally fits what the Rams would look for, but he was a 3-year starter at UTEP. He's an absolute terror in the run game. Great tackler, and it's a big reason why he's going to get drafted. So I have him at 33. Number 34 here, we have Edifwan Olufoshio. I think I pronounced that correctly. And that is Washington inside linebacker there. Olufoshio is probably going to go higher than anybody on this list. I could see him going in the 4th round, but I never hear his name mentioned. No one really ever talks about him. There's a select few on Twitter that bring him up. He's got great athleticism, very aggressive player. He's going to help your defense. He's going to help your special teams. Will be a core special teamer, so I have him there. After that, I have Chigazi Anusium from Colorado State, the cornerback, so potential cornerback 5 option for the Rams there. And, at 35 here, he has fantastic size, in speed combination there. He only had 1 interception in college, but he's very physical in the run game, reliable tackler. This is somebody who I think is a little bit of a sleeper, could definitely have an NFL role at the next level. So that's him there at 35. At 36, we got Miles Battle out of Utah. So Battle is somebody that really stood out to me, and I have no idea why he wasn't at the combine. This is somebody who played at Utah, okay? Like, it's a big program. He ran a 4.37 at his pro day. He stands at 6'3", 196 pounds. He can stick to receivers in coverage. He plays the run better than most corners do. Sound tackler. I think he's definitely worth a pick, and I think this is somebody that can work into becoming a potential developmental starter. So look out for Miles Battle. I would not mind the Rams going out and getting him. Up next here at number 37, we have Marcellus Dial from South Carolina. He's a potential cornerback 5 option for the Rams. And when I say that, I'm saying like right now. It doesn't mean he can't do something down the road. But at 37 here, Dial is a fun player to watch on tape. Forced 31 pass breakups in the last 3 years. He's got great speed and ball skills to be worthy of a 53-man roster spot. So I have him at 36. 38 is Willie Drew from Virginia State. I was impressed with Willie Drew, man. Toolsy prospect. I see this as a draft and stash cornerback, but he can be a legitimate contributor on the defense. This is not just throw him on special teams. This guy might have a future. He's got the length, the speed, and the ball skills that you look for. Had 11 interceptions the last 2 years combined. So interesting stuff there. Number 39 is Miles Harden. You've probably heard him. He's been in mock drafts on this channel before out of South Dakota. Cornerback 5 option, I think, right away, but he's a prospect I'm very excited about. 4-year starter at South Dakota. This is somebody that doesn't have any elite traits, but he's just very well-rounded. He's a very balanced player, and I think he's going to be starting somewhere someday because of that. And what we've always found is traits are nice and everything, but if you don't develop, traits don't mean anything. And if you find guys that don't have the traits, but they do develop, they can end up being big-time players in the NFL. We also find that we talk about every year, play speed this, play speed that, or testing speed. Play speed beats testing speed all day. So it's great that you can run, a 40-yard dash 4.3 in shorts and a t-shirt, but that's not what you're going to be wearing on the field. And you're going to run differently on the field when guys are chasing after you. Number 40 is Reddy Stewart from Troy, okay? Potential Rams cornerback 5 here. Stewart is really intriguing because he is not the best man coverage corner, but he was outstanding in zone. So I think he fits the Rams zone defense, predominantly zone defense. In zone coverage, he had a targeted passer rating of 16.3, which is 6th, by the way, among all draft-eligible cornerbacks. I think Stewart is an interesting name to look out for late on day 3. Number 41 here, Quantez Stiggers from Toronto Argonauts, okay? That means he's from the CFL. And to be honest with you, he's got one of the craziest stories in this draft. He was snubbed from the NFL Combine for God knows why, became a superstar in the CFL after basically dropping out of college after the death of his father, which is really really sad. But he's been able to carve out a really nice football career early on, and I think he's got genuine upside to start in the NFL someday. So, definitely an interesting prospect. I wonder if the Rams were to pull the trigger on him. I think he offers a lot there that they would be looking for. Number 42 is Mikey Victor from Alabama State, a cornerback 5 option there. Victor stands at 6'2" and 205 pounds, so I love the frame there at cornerback. He's got crazy length, 33.5-inch arms, and this is somebody that, I look at the pop behind his pads, the ability in the run game, and I see, the coverage, the lapses in coverage, and I think, okay, he's got some work to do. This is a draft and stash option. I think he's a good player. I think he definitely could be developed into something. I don't know if he would start, but would be a really good depth piece if developed properly. I have him at 42. 43, we broke into the safeties here. So with that said, here's the safety name to remember. Omar Brown, Nebraska. Came away really impressed with his game. Backup safety option, in my opinion, for the Rams. I think he's got a chance to be a really good player at the next level. He doesn't have any elite athleticism or anything like that, but just really fluid as a player. 6 foot, 206 pounds, ran a 4.53, which, by the way, 4.53 as a safety is good. Okay, that is a good time, good speed there. I think he's going to be best utilized in sub packages to start special teams early on, and then I think he can eventually make a run at a starting spot, on a defense. So Omar Brown at 43. At 44, we have safety Akeem Dent from Florida State. I really like him. I like him a lot. Backup safety option. Dent, really explosive prospect. I think he can really play any position in the secondary. Obviously has to iron out some things of his game, but I think at the worst, you're looking at him as a really good special teams ace. So I like Dent there at 44. 45 here, Thomas Harper out of Notre Dame. Harper is a backup safety, I think, day one, but could develop into a starter. I like a lot of what he brings to the table. Very talented. And he's somebody that can play the nickel. I think some teams will see him as just simply a safety. I think with that versatility and how much the Rams use that, I think that'll be definitely something that they're interested in. I could see a fit there for Thomas Harper. I have him at 45. At number 46, I have Kenny Logan Jr. from Kansas. He started 44 games at safety. This is somebody that I think very experienced, loaded with instincts, really sound tackler, very intelligent. I think this guy has a chance to play defense at the next level, but I think the whole purpose of drafting a guy like this is what he can do on the special teams side of things. So I think he makes a lot of sense for what the Rams typically look for. So I have him there at 45. At 46 here, I have Tyler Owens. Owens out of Texas Tech. Very explosive, okay? This is a guy who I think he played the star role in college. I think this is somebody that could be developed to play the star role for the Rams at the next level. He'll be vital on special teams. I think he's definitely worth a look with the athletic profile there. Okay, so 47 here, Mark Perry, okay? Now, Mark Perry is somebody here that the Rams met with. Very explosive. Colorado transfer, went to TCU. I could definitely see that, him being intriguing and everything. Could definitely crack a starting spot, at some point. Next up, I have Josh Proctor out of Ohio State. Obviously potential, backup safety there. I think Proctor is really underrated. I mean, I think some people think he's like, fourth round, fifth round pick, whatever. But I've also seen seventh and undrafted. So I think he's stereotypical box safety, moves pretty well, reminds me of Jordan Fuller, went to the same school, played the same position. I have him there. And last but not least here, safety Trey Taylor, okay? I was watching Trey Taylor. That's how I got to Bo Richter. But I still love Trey Taylor's tape. I think with Trey Taylor, obviously, it'd be kind of funny. The Rams last year took the Jim Thorpe Award winner in Trey Tomlinson. This year's Jim Thorpe Award winner, which goes to the best defensive back in the country, went to Trey Taylor. So will they take another one? I don't know. But he's outstanding. Really, really good football player. Great size, 6 foot, 206 pounds. Very good athlete. This is an instinctive player. A guy that was starting upside all over the tape. I would say he's probably the most likely to become a starter maybe on this entire list. So I have Trey Taylor there lastly. Wow. Got through them all. Didn't spend 10 minutes each on them. Kind of ripped through them. But I wanted to give my guys out there, some love. So the small school prospects, and they don't even have to be small school. I mean, the last, Ohio State, TCU, Texas Tech. But I felt like I definitely needed to put this out there because I do spend time on those smaller school prospects and, kind of the under the radar guys. And we see how many of them end up being something in the NFL. You never know where you're going to find talent. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you jotted some names down because come Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you might see some of them go. And maybe some of them will be Rams. Out of the 50 here, I'm very curious to see how many become Rams. Drop in the comments section if you have anybody that you really were impressed with. I'm basically losing my voice. I just talked for like 40 minutes nonstop. So, yeah, appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys soon. Later, folks. Do you love talking about the Rams, the NFL, or just want to be a part of a community? Join my free Discord server today. We're over 800 members. We got 24/7 live chat, a level 3 boosted server, the ability to call into JE Live, playing online games with us on Kick streams, toggleable alerts for when I go live on YouTube or Kick so you don't miss a live stream, and exclusive giveaways. Click the link in the description, the comments section, or the link that comes up in the video to learn more and join today.